Alright, this is our second video on the home front, World War I, and this actually has to do with limits on freedom of speech, okay? Now, first off, the women actually were the major people that didn't want this war, and they had the Women's Peace Party. They actually felt that voting rights were more important, and so they wanted those voting rights so they were able to vote. But it did show us that not everyone's bought in, right? Secondly, we do have the Great Migration, which we talked about in early civil rights, will actually transport a lot of people from the south to the north in search of jobs. Now, remember, not religious, but freedom was a little bit thing as well. However, separate but equal is the law of the land. Now, Jim Crow is not up there, so it might have been a little bit easier. Now, because of the Great Migration, these people felt like they needed to fight for the country, and there was actually a very well-known group from Harlem of all black fighters, and they were called the Harlem Hellfighters. Now, they were actually so tenacious that they were recognized by every major country, including the opposition, save one. One country did not recognize them by giving them a medal, and that was the United States of America. However, France also did not allow them to march in the Paris Peace Parade when it ended. So that just goes to show you that separate but equal not only was here in America, but it was in France. South Africa had the apartheid, which was really horrible, led to the rise of Nelson Mandela. So it is, separate but equal was kind of a global concept around the late 1800s, early 1900s. Now, when we started this country, we actually had something called the Alien Act, and that basically provided against treason and things like that. But there really wasn't anything talking about spies. So in addition to that, in 1917, the Espionage Act will be passed. Now, the Espionage Act said if you spy against this country, it's a federal offense, you can go to jail, basically outlying and protecting these things, okay? The next year, they added in addition to that called the Sedition Act. You can see there, loose lips might sink ships. Now, the Sedition Act basically said if you say anything that can be construed in a manner that you are being unpatriotic and going against your country, you're seen as a, quote, spy, and you will go to jail. Now, a lot of people who criticized both these acts said that it would kill freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and freedom of press, much like the snake going after these three small children. It would be a battle, and in the end, it wouldn't be a good idea, right? Now, the socialist part of America, and this would be the Eugene V. Debs that we talked about with labor unions, actually said, no, resist the draft. You don't have to do this. Don't register. Hang back. And the question was, are you allowed to say that under the First Amendment, or is that part of the Sedition Act and treasonous talk, okay? So we meet a man, and he's actually the secretary of the Socialist Party of America. His name is Charles Schenck. Now, Charles Schenck was distributing circulars, which are flyers, to draftees, urging them not to submit to intimidation, but to get rid of this. And the whole idea was to repeal the Conscription Act, which is the Selective Service Act of 1917. Charles Schenck was actually charged with conspiracy to violate the Espionage Act by attempting to cause insubordination and obstruct the draft, okay? This went all the way to the Supreme Court. What is more important? Is it your ultimate freedom of speech, your personal rights, or is it national security? I'm going to bring that up a ton because this is not the last time you'll hear it. And you'll actually kind of get tired of me saying which is more important, national security or personal freedom, and hopefully we grasp that, okay? Now, Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes is the man who writes the decision in this court case. In the end, he said the act is constitutional. The Sedition Act and Espionage Act is constitutional, and Charles Schenck is in violation of that. So, in the end, when it comes down to it, which is more important? National security. And when we are in a time of war, certain things that we said in peace won't be tolerated, okay? Now, there is a bigger concept to come out of this, a precedent, meaning we're going to use this to go on, and it's called clear and present danger. Now, in this, Justice Oliver Holmes actually uses an interesting analogy, and that is, if a man goes into a crowded theater and shouts fire, is he actually allowed to do that? And so they said, no, if you went in there and you shouted fire, you would actually cause a panic, and so your words could be construed to cause an action that would be horrible. Thereby, you can't always say what you want, because if the words you're saying can be used in a manner to create a panic, then you are guilty of espionage in essence. And so that's a limit on your freedom of speech. Now, Eugene V. Debs did not like this. He actually appealed the conviction, went in support of this, and ultimately in the end, it got him locked up in prison because he basically said Charles Schenck could do whatever he wanted to. And so there you are with that. He does go to prison, backing this up. So again, you can't even kind of question this. And that maybe goes against the First Amendment, but that's what they decided in this court case. All right?